Who would have thought that labeling everybody that doesn't vote for you a racist could possibly be bad politics? Maybe we shouldn't be shocked by the results from last night, but we are. One blue state, Virginia, flipping red, and an even darker blue state, New Jersey, split essentially right down the middle 1 year after Biden cruised to victory there by 16 points. The state Democrats normally don't even need to campaign in, like New Jersey. It's usually a lock. If you're a Democrat with a lick of common sense in the wake of what happened last night, you are now racing back toward the middle and focusing on real issues that your constituents actually care about. But there aren't many sensible people in Washington, and even less in today's Democrat Party. Everyone now is looking for cues from people like Nancy Pelosi. What do? We just had a shellacking last night. We don't know what to do. We got a brand new president who's got 3 more years, even though he's about to fall over. Pelosi didn't give many cues out today, though, and it was quite clear she didn't want to talk about this when she was ambushed on Capitol Hill by reporters.
He was a great governor of the state.
Does he change the agenda for the House now?
No.
Are the negotiations wrapped up? What about immigration?
Nah, I don't want to talk about that. Doesn't want to talk about this at all, obviously. Clearly, she's going to say that this will change nothing. No, this won't change anything, but it changes everything. Nobody believes her when she says that. We're just 10 months in. It's a brand new government, and this new White House is now going to be nearly powerless. Perhaps some version of infrastructure actually does pass. You could see that happening. But the dreams of an expansive social safety net with Biden's last name attached to it are gone. All these radical ideas are now gone. Nothing radical will get through Congress now. And this White House only does radical. This has been a scary 10 months for most normal Americans, and most of the fear has come from social issues. Have you ever thought about race this much in your life? Think about that. Think about how much you thought about race 5 or 10 years ago versus today. Did you ever imagine a Joe Biden presidency would start with the White House announcing that racial equity was effectively a national emergency? The lies that Democrats always use to get elected are now spilling over into actual policy. In no country in the world do black people live better than they do in the United States. Go into almost any major company in this country and you'll find an HR department on a mission to hire minorities over whites every single chance it gets. But to the Biden White House and suddenly the mainstream Democrat Party and, of course, the media, America is fully racist. And America needs to be fixed from the ground up. Everything needs to be changed dramatically. It's a cry of desperation from a party that has no idea whatsoever what it stands for. And they're just trying to figure out messaging that gets elected. Lost in the ugly world of identity politics, not even remotely concerned with actual issues that its supporters care about. And when you're that lost, you lose. Kamala Harris was so desperate to push Terry McAuliffe's flaccid campaign across the finish line that she made this statement a week ago, one that she no doubt regrets tonight.
Because you see, what happens in Virginia will in large part determine what happens in 2022, 2024, and on.
Now, obviously, she said that to scare people into voting, right? That's the whole mission. I just got to say whatever the hell I got to say to get you to go out and vote because we have to win. But it was also true, at least in the immediate term. And in the aftermath, Republicans are now back on offense. The National Republican Congressional Committee expanded its 57-member offensive target list today, adding 13 additional Democrats and bringing the total to 70 House Democrats whose seats will be targeted by Republicans ahead of the 2022 midterms. These are the vulnerable ones, they think. The midterms with 70 vulnerable could be a bloodbath like we haven't seen since Obama's first midterm back in 2010. Here's a quick look at who's been added to the list. Just some names. See if your state's on there. Maybe a name you recognize. So now there's 70 Democrats in swing districts who need to decide what to do with these insanely liberal spending plans that are sitting in Washington. And after what we saw last night, swing district Democrats probably just want to lay below the radar and just kind of get through next November. They got to get elected every couple years in the House. When Biden took office, Democrats thought the move away from Trump made them untouchable. And that's what we've seen over the last 10 months. It was a moment to satiate some of their most liberal fantasies, one of which, of course, is total control of the population. Big government politicians, no matter what party, lay at night dreaming in their bed how easy their job would be if they just had total control over the populace. Freedom, of course, is so horribly annoying to most people who are in power. During COVID, liberals, the Democrats, the first mistake was forcing these vaccine and mask mandates on Americans. People just don't like being told what to do in this country. It's just the way it is. Democrats' desperation to retain their total control over the black population led them to push critical race theory, indoctrinating a whole segment of the population as perpetual victims who will need government to survive. As they always do, Democrats tank the economy through vilifying business and pushing for more taxes and regulation as the COVID recovery completely stalled out underneath Biden. And then, of course, this insane human infrastructure bill and all the spending, a major shift towards socialism, pushing a bill that means we all share in the responsibility of raising all of America's kids, taking care of the elderly, and putting everybody through college. It's all a community mission now. We all have to share the wealth, along with, of course, trillions more in wasteful spending and a bunch of climate money. And last night, Americans effectively said no to all of this. That's what we saw last night. What happened last night was actually fairly simple. But of course, the worst of our media would not accept the reality of the moment. It was simply all about race, of course. The Atlantic's Jemele Hill tweeting out, "It's not the messaging, folks. This country simply loves white supremacy." I mean, can you even imagine believing that? Can you even imagine living in this country and believing that? How scary is that? There's a massive swath of liberals and a lot of our media that truly do believe what's being taught in our schools for the last couple years is actually appropriate. They've sold themselves on this, that we should live perpetually in this new race-obsessed world. I guess Jemele Hill didn't see Virginia's new lieutenant governor-elect, Winsome Sears, who's been all over the news today, the first African-American woman elected to that office in the state of Virginia, white supremacist. What a response from Sears to that tweet from Jemele Hill, simply tweeting a photo of her holding a nice big American gun with a caption, "We beg to differ." Here are some more freakouts from our liberal friends in the media.
Republicans are dangerous, that this isn't a party that's just another political party that disagrees with us on tax policy, that at this point, they're dangerous. They're dangerous to our national security.
But I think we also see the enduring power of the culture wars, and the Republicans are better at playing this game.
Critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection-endorsed Republican.
That woman is such an idiot, and she called herself a Republican. That's the best part. Yeah, it turned at 15 points because it actually is real, sweetheart, but, don't worry about it. Credit where credit is due. Some members of the media actually had the foresight to note that the Democrats could actually be their own worst enemy in a lot of ways. There was some common sense out there. Over at CNN, Van Jones, and a couple more. Here you go.
How much of this is a message just to the Democratic Party that it's too far left?
Well, we've learned this should be a wake-up call for Democrats. It's not one problem that the Democrats have. It's a number of them.
I think that the Democrats are coming across in ways that we don't recognize that are annoying and offensive.
Annoying, offensive, out of touch. That's the honest truth of the matter. These people have forgotten what it's like to be a real person. Most of this mission that we're seeing, this woke mission, all of this, is coming from places that are not real America at all. It's coming from wealthy, white liberals, people that are in power, people that have no idea what real Americans actually talk about, what real Americans actually need, what they care about. They're completely lost in another planet. Their lives are so easy and simple that they're trying to create problems where there were none.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.